go by Buddy. Everybody calls me Buddy. I'm going to do a presentation on the results of I'm 70 years old and I've been in the church for a long time. I grew up in the Episcopal Church, um, gave my life to the Lord when I was in the military in 1973. Met my wife in 86 and married. We've been married 39 years. We've gone from Eastern Orthodox, Roman Catholic. I mean, we joined Roman Catholic. We didn't join the Orthodox, but we worshiped with them. I was born and raised Episcopalian, Anglican. We've been in Assembly of Gods, Baptist, Southern Baptist, a lot of different churches. We got into the Hebrew Roots movement, just the whole complexity of the Christian landscape. There's a lot. We've gone to a lot of denominations because we're real strong seekers. And so this is going to be a talk of mine, just rambling here, of where I've come to. And I don't want to offend anybody. I came to the church and I lived the church, and every day I could be there, I was there. But I paid attention, and I'm a software developer, and I'm very good at pattern recognition. I've gotten patents, I got awards. I got awards from IBM, the highest award they give. I have awards from Dell. I lived here in the Austin area, so that's where I did my career. So I see things and I put things together. When I run teams, I have to work with requirements and specifications and roles and responsibilities, and things have to jive up. When you're writing software, you have people testing the software and you have people creating the software, and they all have to be on a common idea. So you have to look for detail about how things work. And I took that same approach. I mean, it's not a taken approach. That's who I am. So I'm not taking an approach to studying the Bible a certain way. It's just the way I am. And I find very interesting things that don't make sense to me. And that's what we're going to share. So I call this the golden nuggets of Jesus. Okay? And what we're going to be talking about is, what do I mean by golden nuggets? Well, first off, what I mean by that are the teachings of Jesus. The words that are attributed to him speaking. That's what I care about. There's no other voice that I care about. But there's some questions about who Jesus is for me, and I couldn't resolve it. I'm sorry. I'm a software developer, and these specifications don't jive up. So we're going to look at, do we have the same God here? Is the God of the Old Testament and the God of the New Testament, and forget what their name are, is really the one book slapped on top of the other book, right? Old Testament, New Testament, they're different names. The Jews call it one thing, Christians, whatever. But I think you know what I mean by old and new. The gods seem to be different. We'll go into that. The other thing that concerns me is that there's all kinds of promises that are given in these words that are attributed to the man named Jesus. And those promises don't come true. And we'll talk about that. That's what I see. I say, this didn't come true. So then there's a question we'll have, is there a difference between Jesus, the man that had the golden nuggets, versus Christ? What does that mean? Then we'll look at some golden nuggets. Not much. We'll talk about it. But I'll go into golden nuggets a lot later. Individual, each of them, I'll be doing a breakdown of how I see it with my little autistic ADHD brain. And then I have some things to share. So let's just start off on the first one. Is it the same God? I mean, the claim of the Christians are that Jesus is the Messiah predicted by the Jews. That's what it is. That their whole claim to fame and why they can tack the book onto the back of the Jewish book is because they say, he's a continuation. But is he? If he's a continuation, then that would mean it'd have to be the same God, right? They say, I hear this all the time. I am a Christian. I was a Christian. I understand the lingo. So we would say, Jesus Christ, yesterday, today, and forever. Oh, really? Then how come back then it said eye for eye, and now he says turn the other cheek? That's a big difference. It's a big difference. One person ain't got an eye, the other one got a little slap on the cheek. In the Old Testament, you can ask for forgiveness just by asking God. David asked for forgiveness, and God said, yeah, there was no problem. In this New Testament, you got to go through Jesus before you get to God, and you got to do a whole bunch of stuff. You got to accept him, and it's complex. There's somebody standing between you and God, and it's this. So in the Old Testament, God had no problem wiping out other nations, just wiping them out. But over in the New Testament, it says forgive 7 times 70. Well, that's a lot of forgiving. I mean, it's infinite, is the idea. That's a different God. That means God changed. And don't tell me this stuff about dispensation. Yesterday, today, and forever. That means there's no dispensation. That means God isn't change. In the Old Testament, God forbid them to sacrifice to Baal, the children. They sacrificed children. But in the New Testament, the Christians claim that this same God tortured his own son and then crucified him, sacrificed him for you, which is strictly, so that's, why are, same God? I don't think so. It doesn't look like the same God to me. The next one, in the Old Testament, you're not to drink blood of any animal, period. New Testament, you're drinking Jesus' blood. You don't see a problem with that. I mean, I do. The next one in the Old Testament, it says, do not commit adultery. The New Testament, if you so much look at a woman with lust, you tell me one man that can do that. And so that tells me in the Old Testament, I get punished for the things I do. In the New Testament, it's you get punished for the things you think. Okay? That's different. That's different. If you think it's the same God in a continuation, then go back to what you're doing. You don't have to watch any more of my stuff. But this don't make sense to me. No way. Doesn't make sense. So the next one. There's a lot of promises that are given. But see, the thing for me is there's Jesus, the guy that had the golden nuggets. The guy that when they tried to push him off the cliff, he just walked through their midst. I mean, who is this dude? But he says a lot of things, but some of the things that are said or that are attributed to him are not golden nuggets. They're like fantastic promises because the person that they're attributing to is God, the Trinity, right? So for me, when I see these promises coming from a belief that the person saying them is the third person in the Trinity, in other words, the promises hold weight. They should come true. God spoke them is what I'm looking at. So if Jesus is the part of the Trinity and divine, then his promises should come true. And if they don't, that means he wasn't divine. So how about this? Ask anything in my name and I will do it. No qualifications. Anything. Heal my wife. Heal me. Anything. Heal my little nephew, Theo. Heal him. Anything. My mother died when I was 13. I wasn't bitter. I figured he took her for a reason. But this says, I learned later, Jesus said you can have anything in my name. He says, you'll do greater things than I haven't seen a single Christian doing greater things than him. Maybe Padre Pio of the Catholic faith. I don't know. He said, you could drink poison and snakes and all this stuff and no harm would come to you. There's some churches in Arkansas that do that shit. Or excuse me, I shouldn't have said that word. There are some standing here that will not see death until all is accomplished. Really, what was accomplished? He didn't come back. 2,000 years later, he said, there are some standing here that will not see death. Okay, where are these people that have not seen death? They're immortal. Where are they? He says, if you have faith even as a mustard seed, that's kind of a little tiny seed, just that much, you could say to this mountain, be ye moved, and it shall be done. I've never seen a mountain moved, and I worked in construction, heavy construction, move a mountain. It takes a lot of energy to move a mountain, to move a little hill. But it says here, just faith. Now, I also think it's written, the just shall live by faith, right? But if you have faith, that's the only way you can be justified. But here he says, if you have faith that you can be justified, that same faith should be able to move mountains. So how are you saved if none of you are moving mountains? I guess you don't have the faith to move mountains, so you don't have the faith to be saved. I don't know. You tell me. Jesus prayed that we would all be one. Remember when he's getting ready to be tortured by his Father and then killed by his Father? Yeah, he prayed that we'd all be one. I tell you what, we're not one. I've been to all these churches. Oh, do we take communion every day? Is it wine? Is it grape juice? Is it a bread? Is it a loaf? Is it a wafer? Do we speak in tongues? Is the canon closed? It's a mess. But it's enough of a mess to convince me that none of these promises came true. Right? So that told me the evidence that the person speaking, attributed to speaking those things, those can't be true. They're made up, right? Jesus had the golden nugget. Somebody made him into Christ. And when they did that, they had to say, well, as Christ, he would have said these kind of things. He never would have said these things. So let's talk about the difference between Jesus versus Christ. So let's assume, and I do assume, that there was a person named Yeshua, because that's the Jewish name, not Jesus. That's a Greek name or whatever. Yeshua. There was a guy. And I believe he had teachings, because I see the same thing in other religions. There's usually a typical, very special person that hears clearly what God is doing, and they share, and people say, wow, that person was real special, and they continue, like Lao Tzu with Tao Te Ching, very similar to Christianity, or the teachings of Jesus, not to Christianity. Christianity's on its own. So let's assume that Jesus lived. I do. Well, the God of the Jews is different than the God of Jesus. We just talked about that. It's a different God. You can't tell me yesterday, today, and forever, and then he's changed. Don't commit adultery. Oh, no, you can't even think. That's different. It's not a dispensation. It's not a clarification. God doesn't need to do that. So if they're different gods, then he can't possibly be the Messiah. There's no way, because the Messiah, by definition, is the one that was predicted to come. So, but if it's a different God, he's coming from some other God. Jesus is representing something else, not Yahweh, Jehovah, whatever the Jew God is. What do we want to call him? Jesus ain't that. That's why the Jews don't do it. You know, I have a friend on Facebook, and she was discussing with me about this a little bit, and she's Messianic. She's a Jew. She says that she's, fully realized now, because as a Jew, she now believes in Jesus, and she wrote herself in an argument against me that the Jews don't believe that God could become a man. Yeah, I agree. God couldn't become a man. You can't contain God in a man. She told me, the Jews don't believe that. And yet here she is a Jew. She tells me, I'm a Jew, I know everything. And the Jews don't believe this. And yet it's like, these are facts that once you understand them, I don't know how you're going to look at it. It's like, something's wrong. It's like going to the moon. I don't think we went to the moon either. Elon Musk says he'll take us 3 different freaking stages of, how did we do it 50 years ago? Anyway, that's a whole other thing. But men have not changed. Men deceive. Men with power deceive. And if they could get you to believe that this person is God, and if you do something wrong, you're going to go to hell and burn forever, that's some pretty powerful fuel for a cult. I get you in here and you'll never leave. You're afraid to death. Oh, yeah, that's what we have. That's what I believe. Christianity, in my mind, is a cult. The teachings of Jesus are beautiful, and they've turned it into a business, to a cult. So if it's not the same God, then Jesus is not the Messiah. If Jesus is not the Messiah, he's not part of the Trinity. He's not divine. He didn't have a virgin birth. His death meant nothing. Those things were all tacked on, in my belief, because the nuggets of truth that are in the Synoptic Gospels, I only care about the Synoptic Gospels, because I think in there are truths that are so ancient that Jesus brought, that others have done. And I can show those to you. He's not the first one, but somebody, and I believe, and I'll get to that later, who did this. But if he's not the Messiah, he's not God. If he's not God, he's not part of the Trinity. Then all the things that are attributed to him being said from the position of being God, I can toss them out. They were added in. If there was a person, and he did have teachings, and he did healing. I think he did amazing things. He was a super ancient mystic. And he was so far out there that I don't know what happened. So anyway, my conclusion is that the teachings came first. First, this dude Jesus I believe he had a following. I believe he walked on water. I believe he did those things. I believe he was able to do those things. How? Well, that's why he taught in parables. You know, you're supposed to dwell on them. You're supposed to do them. Not everything is a parable. Some things are commands. And that's what I'm into. What did he say about how to walk out your life? So the teachings came first, and then they tacked on these. Now, who would have done that? Well, who's in charge? The Pope, dude. Roman Catholics. The Catholics, of course they did. They wanted to retain the Roman power. It's as obvious as can be. Why can't you see it? Look at what they have. They have the Vatican. It's worth trillions. They continued the pomp and circumstance of the Roman Empire. Jesus was a beggar. Lived on the streets, man. He walked around. The foxes have holes. The birds of the air have nests. The Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. You know, he said the lilies in the field, you know, are more beautiful than Solomon in all his glory. I mean, this man was a simple, down to earth, and you guys, the Roman Catholics is like high church. I mean, it's the very thing that he was kind of against, you know, the killing all the animals in the temple, and he chased them out with the... Well, that's what it is. It's a den of thieves, man. They have these big buildings, and what, you get to go in it 2 times a week or something like that. You got people that are homeless, the poor. You got a kitchen in there. Jesus couldn't even get in. Jesus couldn't get a free meal. He couldn't have a place to sleep. In all of America, he probably wouldn't find a church door that he could just sneak into and have a good night's sleep and get some food. Because they say they worship him with their mouths, but they don't. Their hearts are far from him. Because they don't know what to believe. They're so into Jesus, the Christian part of God. That's idolatry. Anything that comes before God is idolatry. And they made Jesus into God. Part of now God has 3 persons. He didn't know that in the Old Testament. That's a new thing. And it's not even in the Bible. The word Trinity is not even there. That's all. So there's this whole Christianity thing, but then they're inside of it, in the middle, in the heart of it are these nuggets of how to walk with God. What does a person look like who walks with God? Okay, what are the behaviors? So Jesus lived. He had the golden nuggets. He's representing some other God. So think about it. I mean, just think about it. Right now, this is September 2025. Israel is basically destroying Gaza and Hamas. And they should. I mean, Hamas has proven time and time again they will not live together. And this is war. We're not talking, this is war. And in war, you wipe out your enemy. That's what we do. That's what war is. And Israel's fighting for their life in the middle of an Arab continent. So they're wiping them out. Now, Christians believe that God of Israel is really Jesus. Probably a third of them, right? Trinity, I mean, you know. So basically, Jesus is right now wiping out Gaza. In the Christian mind, I mean, that's the God. That's who they pray to. That's who arms them when they do their prayers in Hebrew at the synagogue. It's the God of Jesus, right? That's what the Christians say. So there's your proof. Jesus is not that God. The God that Jesus expresses is the same Spirit of God that he talks about. Where, like the wind, you don't know where the Spirit comes. That's the only thing that was really true as far as this Trinity. There is God, but God is everywhere. We'll get into that later. Show me where God is not. Show me where he's not. Show me. Anything. If you get down into the minute, there's more space than there is solid. And what's in that space? God. God is. He's not sitting up on some seat with Jesus sitting next to him having dinner. He's a spiritual being. He's spiritual. So Christianity to me is a cult. You have to believe very specific things, which are very odd. You have to believe Jesus rose from the dead and he died for my sins and he will come back to me and we'll be in the rapture. I mean, there's so much thought. And you go to hell for a thought crime. What is the thought crime? Not accepting Jesus into your heart. I mean, that's not a physical thing you can do. So, I don't know. I don't understand it. There's nothing in the Bible that said to do that. But that's what they go to ask Jesus into your heart. Well, I get it that you want to repent from your selfish, self-focused, self-interest ways and open your heart up to God. That I get. That's repenting, turning away. But Christianity is if you don't do certain thoughts, have certain thoughts, you go to hell. And not just like for a spanking. Eternal, without end. Fire. Torture. This is the God that you're worshiping if you're a Christian. That if you don't believe, John 3:16, for God so loved the world. John, remember it's John, that's why I don't count John. I just do the synoptics. I do what Jesus said. For God so loved the world that he gave us his only son, that whosoever believeth on him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. Perish. What is perish? Shall not perish. So God so loved me, but if I don't have the right thought, if I don't think that Jesus is the part of the tree, if I don't accept that, did I perish? Perish? I thought you just told me God loved me. So it's a cult. So we'll look at that. And I think most people ignore his teachings anyway. I mean, they give it lip service. They have the epistle and the gospel and the sermon, and then they have coffee and tea, and the kids play on the swings, and we pick the lint off our sweaters, and we go look at our friend's new car, and we figure out can we get home for the Packer game. So, the thing of love thy neighbor as thyself is second unto love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, and mind. And I think that's what Jesus' teachings, the nuggets, demonstrate what it looks like when a person does that. Okay? So, golden nuggets. I'll be going through what I consider the golden nuggets. I'll be pulling them from Matthew, Mark, and Luke. I'm starting off with Luke. I think it was like, I understand that some people consider it the original. I think John is wacko. I think Paul was his own thing. He did a franchise. I don't listen to Paul at all. I don't. Why would I care what Paul says when I have the words of Jesus? I don't care what Paul said. I care what Jesus said. So done with Paul. And I think John's a wacko. He's on drugs or something. That dude's mental. He's wacko. Because the three synoptic gospels kind of make sense. And then John comes along and like, whoa, it's a whole new ball game. So it's like, I don't know how Christians do it. There's so much weird, conflicting things and terrible things that are like, oh yeah, man, we love you, but you're going to be burning in hell forever. It's like, goodness gracious. If you really thought that, wouldn't you be knocking on every door, every fucking moment, I'll cut that out. Every single moment, every moment. If you really believed they would be tortured in hell, in fire. No, it's a social club. You know it, I know it. For some people, are very serious, though. Don't get me wrong. I was with the Roman Catholics. Dude, we were at Mass every morning at 7 o'clock. They're serious. Protestants, they don't even know they're Catholic. Protestants are actually Catholic. They don't know it because they never studied Catholicism. Catholicism is what was instituted out of Jesus. They made the Roman Empire instituted Catholicism, and they could keep their empire going. It's still going. So that's not what we're here for. We're here on what was Jesus saying. What did he say, and what does it mean? And that's what I hope to provide. What I gained over my 70 years. So I don't care about myths. I care about things that can be validated. Okay, so can I validate the teachings of Jesus? I believe so. Do them. Do them. Be persecuted. I was. Quick story. 75, I was in the service. I applied for conscientious objector. I was already in the service for 3 years, something like that, 2.5. I applied for conscientious objector, which is a person that says I cannot kill another. I came to the realization that the main job of the military is to kill somebody. And I'm like, I didn't really think about that part, did I? I wanted to learn how to drive a truck. I was a heavy equipment operator. So I went through it, got assigned conscientious objector. And that day I wore my robe to the airport. I was in Okinawa, wore my robe to the airport to go to a monastery. I was going to go to a monastery, become a monk. I got arrested for wearing a robe. It was a military flight. I didn't think about that part either. I messed up. So one thing led to the other. So I ended up in the Marine Brigade for messing up. And I got beat by 3 Marines. I don't blame them. They were told to. And so I had a real hard time getting beat. Yeah, it took a long time. Like I was in the hospital a long time. So that's a little side story, because I stood up and I said, well, that's what Jesus said. You should forgive 7 times 70. You know, I don't care what the Old Testament said. I care about what Jesus' teachings were out of his mouth that were not attributed to the Christ, but to the man. And I came to that point that if I have to suffer for following his teachings, I'll do that. I left home, and I'll get into that later. But I took these teachings and I tried to actually do them, because I thought they were commandments. I went, why did he say them? Leave mother and brother and sisters and go out and take nothing with you, nothing of staff. I mean, I did that for a year around America. Had nothing. No ID, no money. I had my thumb. Where's my thumb? There's my thumb. I hitchhiked. 1976 or so. So anyway, so what is it about this whole Christian thing and Christianity and the golden nuggets? Okay, in the middle of everything is a golden nugget. You'll see a chart here in a minute. But around it, they built this thing. They made Jesus into Christ, and they made him part of the Trinity. That's all idolatry, making a man into God. Okay, so I don't believe any of the myths. I believe there's a lot of myths. All this virgin birth and the prophecies and the angels singing and God having sex with a woman that was already betrothed to Joseph. I mean, what are you talking about, man? Who made that shit up? There's no way to prove that. I can't prove that. I can prove the teachings. I can take the teachings of Jesus. I can take his teachings and see what they mean, and can I apply them to my life. So angels and the announcement and not being able to speak and all the mangers and the angels, that's all fable. You can't prove it true or false. But it's not necessary, because he's not the Christ. He's not the Messiah. So I don't believe in any of this Son of God, the Trinity, the sacrifice, the torture, the drinking of blood, the eating of flesh. That's all made up. That's idolatry. And the next one, I only want to look at the teachings that tell me how to live now. Have I lived his teachings exactly all of my life? No. Who could? Nobody's perfect. That's what's part of human. But it's written, count it all joy when you have trials and tribulations, because it is God putting you into a scenario to see how you're going to behave. Are you going to represent him? Are you going to be his ambassador? Are you going to do what he tells you to do? What you feel the Spirit? Remember, it says there'll be no man need tell you what to say, but the Spirit will give you that words to say at that time. It'll give you the thoughts. It'll give you the unction. But if you don't do it, if you don't try to live those words, then it's academic. You go to church, you hear stories, and it's academic. And that's what I see a lot of. People don't know. It's so confusing. Me too. I was confused for a long time. So that's what I'll be doing. I'll be going through the teachings, the red letters of the Synoptic Gospels, and going through those. And I got a lot of them. You'll see. So I also noticed that these teachings aren't followed. I noticed that when I go to churches, I don't hear anybody talking about doing them. For instance, leave your mother, your family, your brothers, your sisters, follow me. That's a command. I think that's how you grow. Go out on your own. Go out and make your way. Go have adventures. Go trust God. I went around America. I didn't have a dime. I didn't have a credit card. I don't even know if there was credit cards. 1976? Well, I don't know. I think so. But anyway, I hitchhiked around America, recovering from the beating that I'd been in the hospital for a year. Yeah, went to all these spiritual places. That's another story. The point is, I did meet Christians when I did that. In fact, when I left my home with people that were wearing robes in hitchhiking, because Jesus said, labor not for the meat that perish, but labor that which endures to everlasting life. So they did that. They took him serious. Your life doesn't consist of your possessions. You know, he said, sell all that you have. Come follow me. That's what the rich man, what can I do to follow you? Jesus said, you need to get rid of all this money. And he couldn't do it. And people say, well, that was just for him. You know, that wasn't for us. We can have all the money, right? Oral Roberts. I mean, I lived in Tulsa. Yeah, these guys all get rich, right? That's what Jesus did. He died a poor man. And I think he said, be like me. Be like Jesus. Jesus didn't have much. He had nowhere to live. Don't store up for yourself treasures, riches. Do you guys have retirement plans? Why? I thought Jesus said, don't do that. Store up yourself riches. Take no thought of tomorrow, what you shall eat or what you shall wear. Sufficient today is the evil thereof. So why do you do all that? What are you trusting in? Riches and gold, or are you putting your heart, your soul, and mind into God? No, it sounds like but Jesus also talked about the talents. What did you do with your talents? Did you put talents to good use? Or did you put them around the dirt? Yeah, I try to work through that too. It's a hard one. But I sure know the difference between a multimillionaire and living week to week, month to month. Big difference there. Don't store for yourself riches. There's all kinds of churches that are mega churches, pastors that have their own jets. I mean, it said, the teachings say, with food and raiment, let us therewith be content. Food and raiment. No cars, no airplanes. So, are we living the thing? Christians are extravagant. Go to church, people are dressed up, and girls are dressed provocative. The pastors can't say anything because they'll be, it's a joke. I can't go to church because the girls are like, well, I can go to Roman Catholic. I can go to Eastern Orthodox. It's the Protestants I have no idea. And we're supposed to take care of the poor. We're supposed to go 2 miles. When they ask you to go 1, you go 2. You give to the poor. And we have poor all over the place. And I see people pack the parking lots with super expensive, nice cars. Go in, blah, blah, sing, sermon, hap, patty cake, in the cars and leave. They're there for an hour and a half because they got to get out before the next people come in. And then they're all gone. And the poor people all around the neighborhood are going like, I thought these people were like Jesus. I guess they're not. They're more like, I don't know, they ain't like Jesus. So the churches are losing because they're perpetuating Christianity, not the golden nuggets. Here's what I mean. If you look at this golden nuggets in the center, I believe those are teachings that are more ancient, like than the pharaohs. I mean, these are teachings that, like the angels gave us when they taught us how to make bread or something. And other men, and maybe women, I don't know, but I know of other men, like Paramahansa. I can go into a lot of different people that have walked with God. And what I mean by that is that there's an evidence by watching them in their life that it's obvious that they're walking with God. There's evidence of miracles happening or things happening that are good things. Now, Christians, if it's not Christianity, it's evil. David, I mean, they are so arrogant. I mean, it's like amazing. Well, they made a man a god, so they're idolaters. And anybody that says, I can, it's very clear in the New Testament that there is a thing, a spirit, that Jesus was talking about that can come alongside a comforter. He said God would send you a comforter. Whether he said that as the Christ or whatever. But I believe that I do have unctions from the comforter. I've had visions. I've had prophecies. I've had very much evidence in my life that I am touched, or, it's hard to express because I don't have the words. That's why Jesus had to talk in parables. Because walking with God is not easy. Um, but I don't believe it belongs to any religion. This is something my wife and I struggled a lot with. Why should people in India that have their traditions and their customs and their religion of Krishna, I'm saying, why should they be burned and tortured in hell? For what? God created them too. Nothing is here that wasn't created. So every nation, Africa, China, whatever, has their customs, their traditions, their religions. But all those religions point to typically trying to help you walk with God, to walk in a way that's divine. And I think that God is independent of a religion, of the customs. I think religion helps you see. I would not have known of Jesus if it wasn't for Christianity, granted. Like I wouldn't have known other things if I not studied Hinduism and all the other religions I've studied. I get that. But the men that get elevated to the position of where there's a following, where people study what they say and implement what they do, I don't believe that there was only one of them. I don't believe Jesus was the only one. I read Tao Te Ching, and we'll do that. I'll read to you, but go look it up yourself. Go look at Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu, the 15. Go read 15. And it describes a person that walks with God. What does that person look like? And it's astonishing. We'll go into that another time. So I believe these golden nuggets are ancient, pre-pyramids. I mean, megaliths and all that, Peru, whatever. And if you walk with God, then the Spirit reveals those things to you. As Jesus said, it'll bring to you remembrance of all things. He said he'll teach you. You'll have no need of a man teaching you. So if we were all walking with Jesus, right? If we who say we believe, we're walking with Jesus, well, there would be no universities, right? That's what the Master said. If I believe Jesus is the Master, I don't believe he's Christ. I believe he was an ancient Master 2,000 years ago that walked on one of the greatest ever. And he said, you'll have no need of a man teach you. Why do we go to Sunday school and all that stuff? Because nobody knows how to walk it out. They know how to talk about it. Because if you were walking it out, nobody would notice you. You'll see what I mean. Nobody noticed Jesus. Remember, he upset them so bad that they took him to the edge of a cliff, and he just walked through their midst. That means to me that he didn't look any different. He didn't do anything when he moved or walked. He didn't have an entourage. He wasn't dressed in gold. Whatever it was, they could not distinguish from one and the other who was the one that had the power. But remember also the woman with the hemorrhage that touched him. He said, who touched me? He knew that his power had gone. He walks with God. That means God's soul, God's spirit is in connection with that man's soul. And when he felt the healing go to that woman, he felt that energy. He articulated who did this. Okay? Well, when you have somebody that can actually demonstrate how to walk with God, then you would follow him. When Jesus said, I'll make you followers of men, you'd follow him. He had followers. He had 12, and he would do things, and he had 15. He would say, if they have ears, they'll hear. If they have eyes, they'll see. If they don't, then they teach. So that's what they do. That's why they have universities, because nobody knows how to do it, because they don't. It's a cult. So on the outer ring of this golden nuggets, I have Jesus. So Jesus in the Bible, in the New Testament, and we need to call it something else, man. But that's why I'm calling it golden nuggets. Anyway. So, but other people have had these golden nuggets too. Lao Tzu, definitely. Big time. You'll see. So then they made Jesus into Christ. Jesus was just a man like me and you. We are just men in the large. Like all men are created equal. That kind of all men, not, So they made a man who taught how to walk with God. They made him into a Christ, a Messiah. They made him into a part of the Trinity. That's idol. That's an idol. So Christ, because he's not the Christ, it's a different God. So he can't be the Christ of the Jews. That would be like stolen valor or something, right? If you're military like myself, that'd be stolen valor. But he's not. He's representing. See, I don't believe that the God of the universe is Yahweh. I think it's El Shaddai. Go to your Old Testament. When did Yahweh show up? He said, "Oh, yeah, you guys used to call me El Shaddai, but my name's really Yahweh." Oh, okay, Yahweh. Well, that's what happens now when people do man in the middle, when they steal your identity, right? You're on the phone with something and you're passing information and somebody's taking it off. So Yahweh comes in and says, "Oh, all the things that El Shaddai did, well, that was me." Well, there are gods. There are different gods. There's different gods, but I don't believe Yahweh. I believe Yahweh is exactly who he said he was. The God of the Jews. That's what he said. That's not the God I want to worship. I don't like that God. He's ruthless, man. Look what he's doing to Gaza. I think there's a lot of things written in the Old Testament that are true too, that are old golden nuggets, but the Yahweh God, and I don't know. Who knows? But I do know that the teachings that Jesus had, these golden nuggets, apply to everyone regardless of what religion you are. But he was a person that could describe what he was living, walking with God. How he got there, we don't know. I mean, even in the story that you have, he had a virgin birth, and then he went to Egypt forever until he was 30-some years old. Really? There's no record of that? Okay, anyway, because they know how to write hieroglyphs and all that good stuff. They made him into an idol. He walked with God. They made him into an idol. They made him part of the Trinity, and then they made Christianity. Okay? And Christianity is a cult. It's idol worship. Now, if you want to learn about Jesus, that's where you got to go. Sorry, man. Or do it on your own. That's where I went. And it took me a long time to come to this. I mean, it was only like 3 years ago. And the more I continue on my walk in my experience with the golden nuggets, the more I am convinced that the only thing in that New Testament are these golden nuggets, and they're to be lived. They're to be done, and that's all you need. All this other stuff that's just me. That's just me. So, some warnings. I have no problem with the church. Don't kill me. I'm not Charlie Kirk. I'm just a guy, 70 years old, that I'm going to be dead. I'll be dead soon enough. You know? I have no problem with the church. What are you going to do? I wish it would be reformed. I wish it'd get rid of its idolatry, but it's so baked in. I don't know how you tease that apart. I can't. I don't know who can. But I have no problem. If you want to learn about Jesus, go to the church. I went to the church. I went to a lot of them because I was looking for the one person that was actually living it. And I never found them. I found a lot of people who could teach it. Chuck Missler. Oh, man, I love that guy. J. Vernon McGee, Chuck Swindoll, the Biola Hour. I mean, I went, all those guys, man. I learned a lot from all of those. I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater at this point. I am saying that there's more to the eye than what you might pick up if you just go to the church. You're going to get wrapped up into the ceremony. I did. I was getting ready to become an altar boy. I mean, at 68 years old, because I love the ceremony. I got caught up into the ceremony, not into the red letter words, the golden nuggets. So the church to me has made the teachings of Jesus no effect. I mean, it's like, don't be up on the pulpit and your master says, have no money kind of thing, and you're sitting in this church that's only open certain days. It's like, it's hard to, I have a hard time balancing those two things, right? So I encourage everyone to learn of Jesus, but beware of the leaven of the churches. The leaven of the churches is idolatry. It'll ruin you, man. You'll be wearing crosses. A cross was a Roman crucifixion. That's where they tortured human beings. And these people wear this around their neck. And they're proud that their God tortured a human being, tortured, and then killed And they wear this around their neck, and they're proud of it. And they say they're a family, that they're a church, they're a family. And my role model is the God that kills his own son. I don't know, man. Once you go past idolatry, you can pray to Mother Mary. They do. We were Catholics. We did a lot of rosaries. There's all these holy places. There's a lot of stuff when you don't pay attention to the golden nuggets. But if you want to learn, just remember when you go to Sunday school and you start asking the questions like I'm going to ask, they're going to tell you, shut up and leave. Because there's no questions asked. And that's why I always thought all the guys that were teaching me had already resolved all of these hanging chads, these unresolved, how can these gods be so different? I mean, that's a very simple question. If you get past that, if you can say, well, yeah, they're different, but that's cool, well then the man is God too. Jesus is God. It's like once you go past it, it's like that's why the Jews, they look at Christianity and they go, you got to be kidding me. They think this guy is our Messiah. I mean, it's a joke. It's a bad joke. But on threat of death, people were forced to do it. The Roman Catholic Church literally killed people. That's your heritage, even if you're Protestant. That book that you say is the Word of God. It's a piece of paper with letters on it. But you give it the Word of God. That's idolatry. The Word of God is living. It's a living. It's a spirit. The Word of God is a spirit. It's not a book. So the whole thing, once you start down this road, you are into idolatry big time. Go to Roman Catholic Church. Go to any church. Symbols everywhere. I mean, they worship the book, not worship the spirit. Jesus didn't say worship the book. He said love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And God is a spirit. And we must worship him in spirit. And that's what he said. God wants those that worship in spirit and truth. So, if you don't agree with where I'm at, I really don't care. I feel like Kenny Reeves, he says, I'm at a point in my life now where if you say 2 + 2 is 6, I agree with you. It's cool with me, man, because it might be in some, quantum mechanic theory string other reality or something. So if you don't agree, move on. I don't care. This is just what I feel. I have a grandchild now, just born. She's only not even 5 months old, right? And I've been thinking, do I want her to go through all the shit I did? 40 years I was in the church, big time. And I, like I said, the spectrum of church. Roman Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, monks, monasteries, Protestant. 40 years I spent in there, and then came to find out that it's a lie. It's like the moon. Powerful men, powerful, changed, I think, the Golden Nuggets into a cult, and it's still going on, man. I mean, the Protestant thinks that they broke away from the Catholics. They have no idea. They worship on Sunday. I mean, if you were a Jew, you'd be worshiping on Saturday. Same God. The Old Testament said, honor the Sabbath. Oh, well, that changed because Paul said we could collect some money on Sunday. So we're just going to change. Well, they did it because the Catholics are doing it. When do they do Easter? When the Catholics tell them to. They don't follow the calendar of the Jews. I mean, according to the Bible, Easter was at a certain time with Passover. It's all correlated. Hell, the churches don't even have Easter on the same time. Eastern Orthodox is one calendar. I mean, it's like, but Jesus said we're all one, right? So if you don't agree, I'm fine with that, man. I mean, it's cool. I could be totally wrong. I could come up with another video next year, and maybe I become a Wiccan. I don't know. But right now, I want to record this so that someday my granddaughter can watch this and say, gee, my granddad wanted to make sure that I saw the truth for what it was, and I got started on my life correctly. So it's behooved me, it's moved me to want to record this for my Abigail. So if you don't agree with me, I'm not pushing nothing, man. I'm not selling nothing. Do your own thing. I could be totally wrong. So it's just 40 years of church. So that's it. The next video I'll start in on golden nuggets. Thanks. I hope I didn't offend you. If I did, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I'm just trying to say the truth, what I come to. Like Keanu Reeves, 2 + 2 can be 6. That's fine.